NBA fans, welcome to our first SOS showing of our NBA previews for the 2024-2025 NBA season. I'm your boy Noah with my guys Hamilton, James, Matthew, and Randall. How we doing, fellas?
What's going on, fellas? What's going on, man? How y'all doing?
Doing good, man. Got a birthday coming up Tuesday. Turn 30 on Tuesday.
And brother.
Hey, yes, sir. Matt, how we feeling, man?
Feeling pretty good. Ready for the season to get underway.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You speak for all of us. With that being said, our first topic is going to be asking for you guys to choose one story you guys are following, whether that's regarding a team, a player, a new coach acquisition, what have you. So with that one, I'll start with Randall. What are you looking at?
Well, I'm going to start with the Big Apple, New York, big city of dreams. Since 1973, the New York Knicks franchise has been thirsting for a championship since the days of Earl the Pearl Monroe and Walt Clyde Frazier. Now, with the offseason that the Knicks just had, with all the moves they made, trading for Mikal Bridges, and then now with the recent Karl-Anthony Towns trade, they're re-signing OG Anunoby, and you add this core group of guys to Jalen Brunson along with Josh Hart. You know, you see a championship nucleus finally they finally have the pieces in place to where they finally can be able to compete and go deep into the playoffs. The main question is, will they finally be able to get over the hunt and beat the Boston Celtics in the East in order to be able to get to the finals and also put themselves in a position to get over the hump?
Yes, sir. The Knicks, that's definitely a team that did some interesting moves this offseason, especially with the Cat trade and adding on to that. So that's definitely a good one to keep your eye on this season. Matt, what says you? What's one story you're following this year?
Oh, this should come as no surprise, but I'm looking at how Russell Westbrook is going to coexist with this current Denver Nuggets squad. We know Westbrook is, past his prime, but he's kind of turned over a new leaf since his stint with the Lakers. He was actually not a bad addition for the Clippers last year. I think he actually got some Sixth Man of the Year votes. So can he be that necessary spark plug for the Denver second unit when Jokic, when Murray, and MPJ need a rest? I think he and Dario Saric are going to be an upgrade over the second unit that Denver had last year, which was kind of our downfall at times. So I'm interested to see if Nikola Jokic can kind of unlock that ability for Westbrook for them to get back to the promised land.
Yes, sir. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how Russ is going to fit in with that team, deliver that veteran presence for them. So definitely a good one to look forward to as well. Hamilton, what about you, man?
Well, I'm looking at the Los Angeles Lakers and the legend that is LeBron James. I know Matt just spoke about the promised land when it comes to the Denver Nuggets. It's been a while for the Los Angeles Lakers. With the new addition of the coach with JJ Redick, I want to see how that plays out. First-time head coach. I want to see how AD and LeBron are able to stay healthy. They were a dynamic duo in the Olympics, so I'm expecting them to produce, if not produce more than what they were doing in the Olympics. I'm looking at the role players. It's time for the role players to step up and take that next leap, take that next level, see if they actually can do it. I'm looking at Austin Reeves. I'm looking at D'Angelo Russell. He has a lot to prove. He has to redeem himself from last year. The health of the Los Angeles Lakers is also a big factor because it seems like no one can stay healthy, and the drama behind everything on in the front office. So I'm looking to see if LeBron James can quiet a lot of these storms and if the Lakers can get back to the promised land.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that we talked about this in our previous NBA previews episode, and that's definitely something to look forward to when you're a Lakers fan. Will that team support those two superstars along with them? So definitely something to look forward to as well. The one story I'm looking forward to and following this year is the return of John Morant. He had his season-ending injury with his suspension. And that's a Grizzlies team. I feel like that has a lot more potential to pick it up the coming seasons, with the next few seasons. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to as far as a comeback. And I'm hoping that he makes the most out of it. I think he still has a lot of spark power to deliver to the league and his team and make something out of it. So something I'm definitely looking forward to. And the next segment, moving on from for a question from Stacey. Which team that did not make the regular playoffs last year will most likely make it this season, in your opinion? Randall, what says you?
Well, the team that you just mentioned, the Memphis Grizzlies, I think people forget that they were the number two. They have been the number 2 seed the previous 2 years before last, when pretty much you didn't only have to deal with Ja Morant being suspended, but pretty much all their key players went out. Desmond Bane missed significant time last season. Jaren Jackson missed significant time last season. Brandon Clark was still coming off of the Achilles injury, so he wasn't available for most of the season. So you add that, and then you also have the draft pick with Zach Edey. They drafted him as a lottery pick. So it'll also be interesting to see how he fits into that ball club. But if they can get back to playing, if Ja Morant can get back to playing at the level he was 2 years ago, you combine that with Desmond Bane. I'm a really big fan of Desmond Bane. There's been times where he's even looked like the best player on the Grizzlies at times, where he does produce a lot of the offensive scoring for them. So, and also you add Marcus Smart to the mix. I think he's going to be a key X factor this season as far as for the Grizzlies this year, especially on the defensive end. Can he be that tone setter on that side of the floor this season? So if all those pieces can come together and be able to coexist and get that chemistry back going to where they were 2 years ago, definitely look for the Memphis Grizzlies to be back in the playoffs this upcoming season.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely a lot more potential on that team to show out. Once they're healthy, I think once they're healthy, they got a good shot right there. So good point you brought up, Randall. Matthew, what about you? What team do you think makes the playoffs that didn't make it last year?
I'm looking at the Houston Rockets and that young nucleus they have, mixed with some key veterans like Fred VanVleet on that roster. But I really like the young core they have that's led by Alperen Sengun and Jalen Green. They made a really strong push for the play-in last year and came really close. And then at the start of the year, they started off really hot too. They spent the good chunk of the first quarter of the season in the top four of the West. So with another year under that young core's belts, and you still got Fred VanVleet there, I could see Houston making a step forward this year.
Right on, right on. I forgot Fred VanVleet was on the Rockets. I remember him playing in Toronto.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So, hell yeah, that's definitely a good one. That's definitely a good team right there to look out for.
He was solid for him last year.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's right. Yeah, because I remember they were like just behind the Pelicans in their division, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, that's a good one right there, Matt. Hamilton, what about you? What's one team you think makes the playoffs?
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say the San Antonio Spurs.
I like it.
Takes that next leap. We saw what he did in the Olympics. It was virtually unstoppable. I like the addition of Chris Paul. It seems like everywhere Chris Paul goes, that team elevates. Just think about when he was with OKC and how he elevated that team to the playoffs, potentially getting them to a semis. They went 7 games against the Rockets that year. So anywhere Chris Paul goes, success is going to follow, and he's going to get the best out of his players. Him paired up with Wembanyama, and they still have Vessel. They still have a couple other key pieces. I think that the Spurs can make a big push. They'll probably sneak into a playoffs, play-in scenario type thing, and surprise us all by winning a couple games, getting to the playoffs.
I like it, Ham. CP3 Express, baby. Yes, sir. For me, I'm going to side with Randall on this one with the Grizzlies. You brought up a good point where they were the number 2 seed a couple years back. And this is a fully healthy team they got going now starting the season. With Zach Edey and Jalen Wells coming from Washington State. I think that's another good solid pick as far as shooting goes. And, I think Zach Edey deliver as we expect his first year? Maybe not, but there's still potential for him to be still a useful piece in the puzzle more down the road in the long term. I think that's definitely a good piece right there. And, you got Jaren Jackson, Ja Morant, Bane, like you said, Randall. And I think the previous year they had Vince Williams and Gigi Jackson really doing more of the rotational work. So I think that really helps them going forward. And when they need to rotate people in, have them do some work when their starters retire, etc. So I think that all those things, if they stay healthy, will help them get into the playoffs this next year. Moving on to the next topic, we got which team has the most pressure to win this season and why? Randall, let's start with you on that one.
For this season, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia 76ers. I think there's a lot with the addition of Paul George. I think the time for excuses is out for Joel Embiid to not mince words about it to me, because, Tyrese Maxey took that next step last year, and he made his first All-Star team. You saw the growth in his game, and then now you have Paul George in order to be the third guy. Tobias Harris was originally the third guy, and now you replace him with Paul George, who can get in where he fits in on both ends of the floor. And so if Paul George has enough left in the tank, I think the excuses are out for Joel Embiid. So it's going to be on him to be able to set the tone going forward. He has help, and they also made some quality additions. I think, like they brought Andre Drummond back. They had some veteran pieces like Eric Gordon. But the main question is for the Sixers is, can they put the pieces together to be able to make a deep playoff run and be able to get to the finals?
Yes, sir. 76ers is definitely a team to look out for. And like you said, the time's ticking for Embiid, man. And the excuses are running low. So I hear you on that one, man. I'm sure Philadelphia, the rest of the 76ers community is agreeing on that one for sure. So that's a good take right there. Matthew, what about you, man?
I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Clippers. I know they lost Paul George, but you still got Kawhi Leonard. Can Kawhi Leonard, he actually had a relatively healthy season last year. And we've seen what he can do when he's like kind of the main alpha dog like we did in Toronto. I know that was a few years ago, but you still got a pretty solid supporting cast around him. And your title window is not just closing, it's shutting rapidly. So can the Clippers, put it all together this year before, the time is up for Kawhi Leonard and company?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but do they have like one of the oldest starting rosters in this league?
I believe they do, yep.
Okay, so the experience is there then. Okay, yeah. So that makes sense then, because, there's a lot of big name ones on the Clippers, so that's totally understandable right there. A lot of pressure there for the Clippers. Hamilton, what about you, man?
I'm going to go with the crosstown rivals of the Los Angeles Clippers, the Los Angeles Lakers. You won your first championship, if you're LeBron James, you won your first championship with the Lakers in the 2019-2020 NBA season. It's now 2024 and 2025. You fired your championship-winning head coach. You fired your coach, the successor of that coach who took you to the Western Conference Finals. You now have a rookie head coach who, by the way, was doing a podcast with the superstar that is LeBron James. There's a lot of stuff going on in the city of LA right now. And it's quite frankly, it's time to put up or shut up. You won a championship that was in the bubble. I don't take anything away from that. But from the city of LA, people are looking at that as a bubble ring. We have not gotten to celebrate a championship. We have not had a LA parade for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Only these guys.
We didn't even have one for the Dodgers when the Dodgers won in 2020 either. The last time we had a parade, I was 16 years old. I'm 30 years old now. It's time. It's time to put up or shut up. What are you going to do if you're Anthony Davis? What are you going to do if you're LeBron James? Anthony Davis, you are 31 years old. You are in your prime, sir. It is time for you to take the mantle. It is time for LeBron James to play the second fiddle. Again, I'm looking at the role players. What are you going to do? Do you like playing LA? Do you like the sun? Do you like the warm weather? Do you like the beautiful women? It's time to really lock in, because if you like that stuff, then you want to stay here and you want to be a legend. You don't want to just play for the Lakers and say I played, on the team. No, you want to say I was a championship player on a championship Lakers team. That's how you get remembered. And so right now I'm looking at the Lakers. You've done a lot of funny stuff during the offseason. You didn't really make any significant offseason moves outside of you drafting Bronny James. Congratulations. Wow, you drafted a kid who's quite frankly not ready yet. You haven't done anything with the Los Angeles Lakers, but you keep talking about pursuit of championships. When you have LeBron James, it's pursuit of championships. Well, it's time to put up or shut up. What are you going to do in a Western Conference this year that, quite frankly, if you ask me, is pretty even? I'm looking at the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets aren't who they were a couple years ago during the championship run. They've lost some key pieces. We don't know if the Westbrook trade work out. I'm looking at the Clippers. I don't trust the Clippers not one bit. I'm looking at all these other teams. I'm looking at the Grizzlies. Are they going to pop back up? Now they lost Cat, which means Anthony Edwards is going to have to really take that Kobe post-Shaq role. Can he do that? I'm looking at the Western Conference right now, and I'm not convinced that there's a top threat. So if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, this might be your best chance in the last 2-3 seasons. What are you going to do? It's time to put up or shut up. The pressure.
Yes, sir, and it's definitely, and I think what adds on to that is the new coaching situation with Redick. I feel like there's a bit of uncertainty how that's going to go with the team overall. So we'll see how that all adds up with them and goes down the season.
And while your coach is fighting for his life, essentially, you guys, because if I remember correctly, Jamal Murray made 2 game winners on you guys. So then you get rid of your coach who took you to the Western Conference Finals the year before, and now you got JJ Redick. It's just I don't know. I don't know. It's very sus. A lot of weird things are going on in LA nowadays.
For sure, a lot of pressure builds up right there, and the expectations still stay high, man. So I get that, man. The team I think has the most pressure going into this season is the Suns. I think that the Suns last year. I think we can all say, thank you. I think we can all say the Suns were pretty disappointing. I think they have like the highest paid trio or 3-headed monster, so to say, with Devin Booker and KD and Bradley Beal. They didn't even win 50 games, and they got swept out of playoffs. So I don't know. I think that adds on a lot of pressure to the following season if you still think that this is the way to go for your team. And I think if that doesn't work out, I think that franchise is in trouble. I really do. I think that's, I think the year prior to last year, they went deep. Was that last year they went deep in the playoffs?
I think that was the year. That was, I think, 3 years ago. Because because the year before is when they first traded for KD, and then they lost to Matt's Nuggets.
Yeah.
And then I think the year before is when they got bounced by the Mavs, like in Game 7. That was the year after they went to the finals, I think.
Gotcha. And then this last year, I know they got swept by the Timberwolves.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that formula with the super teams is kind of getting a bit phased out, just a bit. But we'll see. I think that
you guys forgot that Luka sent him home 3 years ago in dramatic, and I mean dramatic fashion.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That Game 7. That was 2 years ago.
Okay, that's right. I think I remember that now. I need to look at those highlights again. But
that was the 2022.
Oh yeah, that was bad. That was bad.
So yeah, you guys are riding on to my points. So yeah, for that sense, I think the Suns really need to lock in. So to say.
I know the Suns. Just to piggyback real quick on what you're saying, because I do feel like the Suns have pressure, but Kevin Durant is the one who has the most pressure. I'm not going to get into his resume because even the casual basketball fans nowadays knows about Kevin Durant's track history post
Warriors.
Excuse me. I can start with OKC, but I'll say post. But I'll go post Warriors to be nice. It's been bad, and he has not done anything. And it's in the way he's been getting sent home. He's been swept twice on 2 different teams now. We're talking about Kevin Durant. So he has the most pressure of anybody, if you ask me. In my eyes, in the eyes of a lot of true basketball heads, he needs 1 championship to validate those 2 other rings he has. Everybody knows it. He needs 1. And quite frankly, what have we seen with Kevin Durant post Warriors? Can't do nothing, man. He can't do nothing. So
he's only getting older too. Like he's 30, I think he turns 30. I think he turns 35, I believe. Or I think he just turned 35. I think his birthday just passed. I think he just turned 35, I believe.
Not to mention the off-season antics with him talking about he might want to get traded. People talking about how he doesn't really gel with the team. He just wants to hoop. No. I don't know if I
really believe that whole like he wanted to get traded. Like, because I mean, where's he gonna go at this point? Like,
fair enough.
Well, I mean, anyone would take Kevin Durant. If you ask me, you still take Kevin Durant, even with all the antics and stuff. It's still Kevin Durant.
No, I'm not saying like what, but it's just like where would like it go to where like it would work out to where could he go to where it could work out to where
Houston Rockets. Apparently, with the draft that they had and all that stuff, that's what everyone was talking about as far as Kevin Durant, and trade rumors. You had ESPN's Brian Windhorst. It was news. Whether it was true or not, it was news enough that we're talking about it. It became something to talk about. You know what I'm saying? And it once again adds on to who Kevin Durant is. I mean, he does jump from team to team. Would you be all that surprised if you saw that Kevin Durant got traded to the Rockets, or I mean, just traded in general? I wouldn't be that surprised.
Well,
Yeah, but to your point, Ham, yeah, that's the KD situation is the most like significant reasoning for me thinking that there's more pressure on the Suns going into this year. You know, the track record, you know, Devin Booker coming in, and you know Bradley Beal still being there, and you know, so that's a lot to you know add on. But yeah, I think the Suns really need to lock in, or they're in trouble in the next couple seasons if they don't really do something. So that's just how I see it. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to move on to our next segment, though. Pretty simple one, a little fun one, too. Going to name our top 3 MVP candidates. Randall, we'll start with you on that one.
Well, I believe Oklahoma City is going to be the 1 seed again, so I think Shea is going to be in the mix. I believe Luka will be the second MVP candidate as well. I think the Mavs will be. I see the Mavs being in the top 4. Also, for the third MVP candidate, I think Giannis is going to have another MVP caliber season again. He was putting up MVP caliber numbers last year, but they weren't. But I think Milwaukee had a lot of up and down. Was pretty up and down as a team last year, but I think I can see Giannis having a monster season as far as bouncing back to be at an MVP level. Now, Brunson could be in the mix, but I think the team around him is going to enhance him a lot to where he may not get the type of votes like in a similar fashion to where Tatum last year was enhanced by was enhanced by his team to where he may not have gotten like the type of votes. So I think those 3 guys, Luka, Giannis, and Shea, I think those 3 guys are going to be the main MVP candidates.
Yes, sir. Very valid view right there. Matthew, what says you?
So I think this year is this is going to be the year for Luka. You know, we've been expecting Luka to make that jump the last couple of years, and it just hasn't quite happened. You know, you could debate last year, but I think this is kind of the year where it's kind of Luka's to lose, especially now you got some reinforcements and you've got the taste of a finals appearance under your belt. Of course, you know, Jokic is going to be in the mix. I'm not saying they'll give it to him, but he just always going to put up the MVP-like numbers. And then for my third one, with a caveat, I've actually got Anthony Edwards. If the Timberwolves still remain a top 3 seed without Cat, I could see Ant being in the mix.
That's a good point right there. You know, the Timberwolves made that Cat trade, so that kind of puts more of the offensive strategy on the Timberwolves game plan right there with Ant being there. So that's a good point right there, Matt. Hamilton, what says you, man? What are your 3?
Kind of tough. I'm basing it kind of off what the guys were saying about being a high seed, but I also think they're, you know, we look at stats, we look at triple doubles, we look at those kind of numbers nowadays. I would have to go with Luka. I think Jokic is going to be in the mix, especially given that the Nuggets don't have as strong as a championship team as they've had in previous seasons. So if Jokic is able to get a 1 or 2 seed in the West, I think that will propel him to another MVP. My third pick would have to be, you know what? I'm gonna go on a limb on this one, and I'm gonna go with Joel Embiid. If the 76ers are everything that we expect them to be, that means Joel Embiid has to be healthy. He has to be stellar, spectacular. He has to be how he was in the playing against the Knicks, just healthy. And if he's able to get a 1 seed in the East, I could see him getting his second MVP.
Good reason right there. The Joel Embiid one, and didn't expect that one, so that's a good one. I like it. I like you, Ham. So I gotta say, for my 3, definitely Luka. He's always going to be that guy for me in there in the mix. I mean, last year pretty much said a lot. SGA as well. I think last year the Thunder really showed they have that firepower. They're still going to deliver this year. I think this next year they're hungry for the way they went out too, and I think they're going to probably deliver more of that execution they got with that team. SGA is still like the real deal, so I got to give that to him. And then I gotta put in Jokic in there too. He's never disappointed either. He's always been that guy for the Nuggets, and still always delivering in the clutch. And I think if they, like you said, Ham, go to like the top seed once again, I think that ups his chances for sure.
I'll pose this question to Matt, but because since you follow the Nuggets, but I wonder if we're reaching the point with Jokic, and it's why I didn't necessarily put him as a candidate, is I wonder if we're reaching the point where we're going to have Jokic fatigue, where, like, the voters are tired of giving it to Jokic, where even if he has, like, let's say, because I think Jokic is still going to put up, MVP caliber numbers,
Mhm.
but I just feel like, but knowing how NBA voters typically are, part of me wonders if they've reached the point where, okay, like, they may not give it to Jokic just because they're tired of giving it to him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they didn't even want to give it to him last year, really. So I think
Mm-hmm.
we're going to reach that point this year, no matter like what type of numbers he puts up. So I think we've reached that point.
So I was thinking that as I said Jokic, I was thinking, oh, he has 3 MVPs now. He's already kind of like a hot topic as far as does he deserve the MVP, yada, yada. But we got to remember that a lot of it comes down to storylines.
Mm-hmm.
And because a lot of NBA media and how we look at MVPs come down to storylines, I think that with the Nuggets not being as strong roster wise, if Jokic has another undeniable season, it's going to take someone who does something even more undeniable in order for them to top Jokic. You can expect that whoever has the first or second seed in the West, or who's the four on that, most likely will get for next season. A lot of the teams that we spoke on have some interesting storylines. Jalen Brunson has an interesting storyline. Joel Embiid has an interesting storyline. I would even go as far to say Jason Tatum.
Hit him.
Yeah,
Yep.
mentioned, but he got not snubbed, but a lot of people look at him like there's a lot of talent. Well, what if Jason Tatum goes off this year and it's so undeniable that you have to give him his first MVP? So I do look at storylines, and I do believe that plays a large factor, because I can still remember there was a couple seasons where I feel like Kobe was by far the MVP, but they gave it to Steve Nash 2 times. And one of those seasons, Shaq was balling, and they gave it to Steve Nash. So I do believe that narratives matter, and whatever gets the media chatty is kind of, you can kind of see where that MVP talk will go. So that was my thinking behind Jokic.
Make your bold statement, guys. You surprise us with this one. All right, this one. I'm gonna start with Hamilton. I know he gets a bit controversial with these, so I'm interested.
It's tough because the NBA has been kind of quiet. So I haven't really. I would say it's been kind of hard to really break down a bold prediction. I guess I'll go out on a whim. I believe that we'll see the Los Angeles Lakers versus the New York Knicks for the NBA Finals in 2025.
All right. What you guys have anything to say to that, or you have any reaction?
The Laker fan in me would love it, but realistically, I just don't know if that's actually going to happen. Like, I would love it, but like,
look at the West. In my opinion, it's not that strong this year. It's really up for grabs. Anyone could come out the West. If you get a playoff spot,
that's true.
I feel like you can come out the West this year.
Even then, that still is not like, things still have to go right. You still got to factor in injuries and health, and like, I mean, that's the main question. Is like, I just hope that like Bron, like, if the number one factor is, can Bron and AD stay healthy? And listen, I actually do think JJ Redick's actually going to do a good job. Like, he's a very smart guy, and I've been noticing from Lakers camp, that he's been very much attention to detail oriented when it comes to his players, and that's what a lot of the guys have been knowing, is that JJ has been very, very detail oriented.
We know
I think
that's detail oriented. We watch his podcast.
Yeah, that's like
breaking down film.
So that's like, I think he'll do a pretty good job of it. But that being said, like, I still don't know if that's going to be enough to deal with some of the heavy hitters in the West. But we have to see. Like, we haven't really seen.
Who? Denver, OKC is OKC.
I don't think Denver's going to fall
a couple times in the regular season last year.
I don't think Denver's going to fall off a cliff as much as like you think they are. Like, they're not going to go. They're not going to go from like a. They're not going to go to like a 6 seed or something like that. Like, they'll still be like a top 3 team. OKC, I think, massively.
I don't know. I don't know if Denver's going to be. I beg to differ. I don't know. They might be a top 5 team, but I do not know. The Denver Nuggets, to me, are not as dominant as they were 2 years ago, where it was clear cut. These are the guys. If you ask me, that depends on the success of Jokic. I don't know if they're going to be a top 3 seed. I mean, okay, Nuggets,
Okay,
OKC. Who else is a powerhouse? Minnesota. I can't say that right now. Now with Karl Anthony Towns leaving, I have to see if Anthony Edwards can be that guy, like completely. We haven't seen that yet. And then when he went to the Western Conference Finals, he folded. Are we so sure about the Mavericks? I mean, the Mavericks were good, but were they just on a run? Did they just get hot at the right time?
but
So,
how are we 100% sure about the Lakers? That's the only thing. Is like, I mean,
well, we're not, but it's a bold prediction. You know, we're not 100% sure, but I think that the Lakers can easily be a top 4 seed this season.
I think we could be in the top five, 6. I think we could. I think we could be like. I think our ceiling is like a 5 or a 6 seed.
Well, either way, bold prediction. You know, that's definitely passes that test of that question. So I love it. I love the faith.
I would love it if it happened, though. Trust me. Don't get me wrong. I would love it if it happened, but like, I don't. I don't know if that. I don't know if that's actually going to come to life.
Call it a poor man's dream.
I love to hear it, though. I love to hear it. Matthew, what's your bold prediction? I'm curious.
Jamal Murray makes his first All-Star game. No reason. I think he's got a lot to prove this year. Not necessarily a lot to prove, but I feel like he knows there's talks happening about, is he really that second star, or is he a product of Jokic? And I think we'll see him, really make an effort to remain healthy this year and take that jump as like a legitimate All-Star caliber player.
Okay, interesting. I thought Jamal Murray made an All-Star. He didn't make an All-Star before?
He has not.
Guards in the West, bro.
Yeah,
like,
so many.
The West is stacked with guards that, like, it's like if you put them on, who do you take off? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Someone's almost hurt, as terrible as that's to say, but yeah.
How long has Murray been in the league?
2017?
17 or 16, if I remember right.
I think I think it might have been either 2015, 2016, maybe. I think it was 2016. I think it was 16.
Healed.
Okay. All right. Well, that'd definitely be cool to see, especially since you being a Nuggets fan.
I mean, Jamal Murray is like, I feel like he's like all-star caliber level player. It's just tough to get into.
I think one of the problems was that for many years, like Damian Lillard was in the Western Conference too. So, he got in, like, it was Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, like those would always be the top 2 guards that get in. And, and then they would always mix in maybe like a third point guard, like here or there, like, something like for example, like when Sacramento, like had their run a couple years ago, like De'Aaron Fox made it. So it's like, it's kind of been some odd years where it's just like, there's always been somebody else. And then you see SGA make it in the West too now. So it's like, he's just unfortunately been the odd man out in the West. Not through no fault of his own.
It's fair. That's a valid take, though, man. I'd love to see
all those guards you mentioned, though, Randall, Jamal Murray is the only one who's the second option.
Mm-hmm.
Dame, first. Curry, first option.
Mm-hmm.
Fox, first option.
Okay.
So they don't constantly. So they don't, and because Jokic is like a point forward, he doesn't always have the ball in his hands compared to the other guys. So you're right, Ham.
All right, you're right. Randall, what's your bold prediction for this year?
My bold prediction is that the LA Clippers will not make the play-in.
Okay.
Because at this age, we can't really rely on Kawhi to stay healthy the whole season. I mean, not to put that out there, but it's just that Kawhi has a notorious injury history. So, depending on him to stay healthy, like for the duration of the season and then through the postseason, like it's a lot. Now, he did play most of the games last year, but expect him to do that year in and year out. Like, I think it's a tall task. And then you lose Paul George, and then they still have James Harden. They do have some decent role players, but I just don't know if that's going to be they could be able to put that all together to be able to compete in the West. So my bold prediction is that the Clippers will not be a play-in team.
Gotcha.
Hibachi, because the Clippers are cooked, bro. Like, honestly, Clippers, bro. To your point, Randall, like Kawhi, like it's to the point where like Kawhi Leonard should be held for negligence because he's just collecting game checks. Bro is always hurt when you need him the most. The only time he hasn't been hurt was when he was with the Raptors. Outside of that, and the 1 year they lost 3-1 when they were up 3-1 to Denver. Outside of those 2 seasons, Kawhi hasn't been healthy in like 5 or 6 years, bro. 7 years. Like, it's been a minute. He's done. George being gone, it's over. James Harden, don't get me started. It's a wrap, bro. And I feel so bad for the owner. I feel so bad because he gave him everything and he got nothing in return. I agree with you, Randall. I don't see the Clippers doing anything, bro.
Yeah, I could see that too, honestly. So, a lot of good, bold predictions there. I like it, guys. I think the one I decided to formulate was I think that the Sacramento Kings will have a better season. Will finish with a better season than the Suns.
Ooh.
I think this year coming around, I think if you get that veteran presence in DeMar DeRozan to help out with De'Aaron Fox and the rest of the team, I think that could really help them in the long run for however long that he's there on the team with them. I think with the fact that they were able to sneak into playoffs with as many deficiencies and frustrations as they had last year, with Fox doing pretty much the bulk of the work, I think that it adds on to their formula this year. So that's just how I feel. I'm not sold on the Suns. I don't trust them. It's just a gut feeling for me. Anyone else want to add on to anything before we wrap things up here?
I think the one team to look out for in the West is also New Orleans. I did think I think we did see Zion take that next step, especially towards the latter part of last season. I think if Zion can continue to build on taking that next step last season, I think New Orleans could be a team to look out for that could make some noise in the West too, because I do see them as an young ascending team as well.
They're not that young though. Zion been in like 4 or 5 years now. Brandon Ingram been smoking in the league for like almost 10 years now. I mean, CJ older than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, like they're not that, like, we keep talking about youth for certain teams, and that's one team I keep looking at like they're not that young. I know that Zion got in incredible shape, but okay, it's a contract year, so of course he's gonna get in incredible shape. But he's always hurt too. Another guy who's always hurt when you need him the most, man. Going back real quick to the Kings, and I feel like the Kings, they underachieved last season, because remember the season before they were a 3rd seed. They underachieved last season, and I'm not gonna get started on the Suns again. So I just, those are 2 teams to me that I'm not, guys. The West is not that good this year, man. Honestly, like the West is up for grabs. To me, the West is really not that good. Like they're going to be beating up on each other. Don't get me wrong, but as far as rosters and depth, a lot of teams have lost a lot of depth, and then and there wasn't really any offseason major moves like that to where you look like, oh man, like, yeah, this is going to be crazy in the West. The West is not that good to me this season, man. I don't know. It remains to be seen.
That's fair to assume, though.
But I think Minnesota is another team that I think we have to look after, because like we have to see if Randall can fit into what they have with the size they have. Because I mean, they still got Nas Reed, like, who I think they still got Nas Reed coming off the bench, who was the 6th man of the year. So like I think they can do more. They can replace Cat in other ways to where they may not necessarily miss him as much as you think, and it may not necessarily impact them that much in the standings. Because Minnesota was, for most of the year, they were a 1 seed in the West, and then they ended up, being the 3rd seed. But I think Minnesota, like, if the X factor could be like, can Julius Randle be able to fit into? Can he be a good fit with Ant and the rest of the guys? And I think Conley's going to be an X factor to see if he can blend in to be able to make all those guys coexist. So if all those guys can be able to do that, then I think Minnesota can still be able to, be one of the top teams in the West.
I was going to say, we've been talking a lot about the Western Conference this podcast. There is one team in the East I would like to throw out there as just the team to watch is the Cleveland Cavaliers, especially after this offseason when a lot of people thought there was going to be a lot of roster shakeup, and then they bring back the entire core 4 of Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen. So I'm just looking at that to see, is that going to work, because that has a lot of like very much make or break potential, in my opinion.
How so? That's a good one, man. I would just say that Donovan Mitchell, to me, On a championship contending team, he's like your second or third option.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, he'd be a good number 2.
You know?
That's fair. Yeah.
I'm just talking as a roster as a whole because, like, a lot of people question the fit of Garland and Mitchell in that backcourt. But here's to play devil's advocate. Garland was also dealing with a broken jaw for a lot of last year too. So, and they still finished as a top 4 seed. So it's just, I'm not saying making a prediction one way or another. It's just going to be interesting to see how they finish.
Nothing.
I think
Definitely.
in the Eastern Conference, another team to look out for is Indy. Like, can they, like, they went to the conference finals last year. I still think they're probably one more piece away from really being a championship contender in the Eastern Conference. But I do like a lot of the pieces that they have. I like Nembhard a lot, and even without Halliburton, they still were able to. I mean, they still got swept, but they still were able to hang in with the Celtics for some of those games in the playoffs. So I think Indy's another team to look out for in the East.
Yeah, those are all good teams to look out for sure. I gotta tune in for sure. So, with that being said, we're gonna wrap things up here on SOS. This is your NBA preview for the 2024-2025 season. So, with that, we're gonna lead you off our way. So, you can follow us on Instagram at Stacey Owns Sports on Instagram, as well as YouTube. I'm your host, Noah Urudio, where you can find me on Instagram at YUNG_N.U.
Hamilton James, if you want to talk sports, find me on my Instagram page, Hennessy Ham. I get back at you.
I'm Matthew Huff. I am on X under the handle Defund NBA Refs, and I'm also a contributor for Basketball Insiders and the Sports Daily if you want to read any of my work.
Bro, I love that handle.
Me too.
Crazy work.
Yeah, I can't beat that handle, but my Instagram handle is at @Rand_Hamilton, and I also write content covering high school sports in the San Fernando Valley for the Valley Sports Telegram. You can also follow that page on @VST_media. Just check out more content, and looking forward to a great NBA season, fellas.
Yes, sir. This has been an SOS NBA special. Your host, we are out here. Thank you for tuning in.